Hey Merfolk and Soulherder fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. Well, I do have some extra time, so I am gonna just upload the rest of that league that I started with Infect. And so this is a replay of round 2. I won the die roll. So let's take a look at the opening hand. Unfortunately, a snap mulligan since there's no lands. And this is a keep. It's got actually 2 card drawing 2-drops, actually potentially ramping us, which is pretty nice. If we can get this Soulherder down on turn 3, potentially with some ramp, draw into an Ephemerate, things could get pretty nice. Eternal Witnesses, I'm on 4. A lot of people are on 3, and I have to say at this point, I counted last night, I'm at, I think, 122 matches at this point since August with the Soulherder deck. And all the card choices I'm making at this point are super informed after lots of testing. I mean, 122 matches, it's quite a lot. I have found myself wanting to draw an Eternal Witness probably more than any other card in the deck. This deck wants to go like really long, often gets, past turn 7, 8, 9, and we've got so much stuff in the graveyard. If we draw an Eternal Witness, we get to get back an Ephemerate, Eternal Witness, get back a Soulherder, play the Soulherder, go to the end step, blink the Eternal Witness, get back whatever we need, whether it's a Path to Exile, a Winds of Abandon, a Force of Negation, whatever you need, get it back on the end step. Opponent's turn comes back to you, you get the rebound. Target Eternal Witness, get back Ephemerate from the graveyard, get the Soulherder value on the end step. It's just insane. I think that Eternal Witness late in the game for us is worth something like 10 mana of cards or something like that. So even though, in opening hands like this, it can be a little bit clunky, but even this is not bad. It's a 2/1 creature, gets on the board, starts attacking, can get back a fetch land, which is, reasonable in this position because I only have 2 lands. So definitely a keep here. And I have been enjoying the 4 Eternal Witnesses. I think that it's where we want to be. It's a core card. People think that Soulherder should be a 3 of, and again, I think that's just straight up wrong. There are matchups where we have a lot of sideboard stuff to bring in, and we just need to sort of start trimming around the edges. And in sort of rare cases, I will go down to 3 Soulherders. But it's just an engine card. It's the heart of the deck. I feel like people who are trimming back on Soulherders maybe haven't played a lot of tribal decks where, even if it's a 3-drop, it's super central to, getting us where we want to go. So you want to be running 4 of these guys. Opponent kept on 7. I pitched one of those Eternal Witnesses. We don't need that redundancy right now. Tap Tallowed Fountain, pass. Opponent opens up with Snow-Covered Island into Arkham's Astrolabe. Almost certainly some kind of Urza deck. So since we don't have lands right now, I think we're going to want to run out Coiling Oracle, hopefully ramp. And we did. We hit that forest, which means turn 3 we should be able to get down Soulherder, start blinking this Oracle. Okay, opponent gets another Snow-Covered Island and plays an Everflowing Chalice, kicked once, Mishra's Bauble, Engineered Explosive with 0. So this is actually some kind of Dice Factory deck. It might have Urza in it, but okay, a Thought Cast. They're kind of going off this turn, and they just pass it back to me. They're going to look at my top card with Bauble. It's just an Ice Fang Coatl. We are going to jam this Soulherder. Swing in with the Oracle. I mean, there are other options, right? I could have played a Coiling Oracle, tried to ramp again, potentially draw into an Ephemerate, do it that way. But odds are this deck is not super interactive. Getting Soulherder onto the battlefield, we get to blink the Oracle, start drawing cards, hopefully hit a Force of Negation. Night of Autumn is pretty good as long as the opponent sort of doesn't continue to just sort of explosively go off. Because with Soulherder on the battlefield, we can blow up one of their artifacts, go to the end step, blow up another one of their artifacts. So let's sort of see where we go here. Mismatched Snow-Covered Island. And, well, there's Urza, so things might get a little bit hectic here. Urza, remember, allows them to tap their artifacts for blue mana. So they're starting off here by, what? Okay, well, Saheeli is kind of an engine card. Whenever they cast non-creature spells, including obviously artifacts that aren't creatures, they create a servo. So let's see if they have any more non-creature spells. Okay, well, looks like they cast an Opal. That got a servo. I'm gonna tap some stuff. Play an Astrolabe. And then just pass back. So, not totally going off, but this is still a little bit scary. They've got an 8/8 construct and a nice engine card. They've got infinite mana at this point with Urza. And, our side of the board is looking a little bit anemic. Land would have been decent, although we don't really have that many amazing options here other than Night of Autumn and hoping that they kind of whiff a little bit. So the construct here seems a little bit scary. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 8/8. That thing's only going to get bigger as more servos are created. Can't really profitably attack with the Soulherder, but we'll go ahead and blink the Night of Autumn here. And it doesn't really matter what we hit, I don't think. So I popped the Everflowing Chalice. You can imagine if the opponent had 2 more lands in hand or something. Next turn, maybe we draw an Ephemerate, blow up 2 more artifacts, start catching up, but they're already tapping a bunch of stuff, so let's see what they're up to. Okay. Whole bunch of mana. And Paradoxical Outcome. Okay, so this card's getting play in Vintage. Basically, you play out a bunch of 0-drop artifacts that have some synergy with engine cards. In this case, it's Saheeli. So this guy's trying to bounce any number of non-token permanents that he controls, he or she controls, to their hand, and then they draw a card for each returned card. So they're going to return 5, including Saheeli, draw 5 cards, and then clearly they're going to get to play all these cards back out. So a Force would be really sweet in this spot. You could counter that Paradoxical Outcome, but without the Force, they're going to be able to sort of just go bananas here. So just click through their turn a little bit here. They still get to tap these servos for blue mana because of Urza. There's Saheeli. Engine card comes out first. Then we see Explosives for 0. Okay, Sai is another engine card. Whenever they cast artifacts, they get Thopters, so they're just getting Thopters and servos. I'm just going to click pretty quick. There's the Opal, another Thoughtcast, a Bauble, Astrolabe, Witching Well. Pause for a second. That's a new card, for those of you who don't know it. It's a common from Throne of Eldraine. For 1 blue, it scries 2, and then you can pay 4 and sack it to draw 2 cards. It's good value for a common. Clearly synergizes with just costing 1 blue mana. Synergizes well with Urza. The guy sacked it immediately. We've got Chalice. You can see all of these servos can tap for mana, so opponent's just well and truly going off here. Okay, making a bunch of different colored mana. They can eventually cast Engineered Explosives with different colors now. Okay, so there's EE for 0 still. Now we see Paradoxical Outcome again. Another Urza. We see a construct there. Okay, so here's EE. They use red mana and blue mana to put it on 2. They can blow up my Coiling Oracle. Mishra's Bauble on 0. Or not 4/0, I mean. I think that with Saheeli this turn, when they replayed it, they actually -2'd it to turn a servo into a construct for the turn. So it's currently a 34/34. Engineer Explosives on 3. Gets rid of my creatures. They swing with the big boy, and I go to -16, so quite a beating. As I pointed out, having a single Force of Negation would have been able to counter the Paradoxical Outcome, which would have completely kept the opponent from going off that turn. So definitely going to want to bring in Disdainful Stroke against this card in particular. Disdainful Stroke obviously also hits Urza. And then all of our anti-artifact stuff. We've got a single Force of Vigor, couple oofs. Let's go ahead and see what I did with the sideboard. All right, back for game 2. I'm going to be on the play. Take a quick look at the sideboard. Hopefully I can remember what I did. With all these singletons, I'm not 100% on my sideboard plans at this point. So Worship didn't really seem super amazing, but maybe it's totally possible that it could be. The opponent with Mox Opals and such could probably keep bouncing them and make 4 colors of mana to be able to get rid of Worship with Engineered Explosives. But it's very possible that they could have a really hard time dealing with it because they're in mono blue, and I can really only think about Engineered Explosives being able to answer it. It just seemed a little bit clunky, and potentially they'd be able to play around it. And if they blow up my creatures with Engineered Explosives, all my 2-drops and my 3-drops, then Worship doesn't really matter anyway, right? So they don't really have to get up to 4. They can just wipe my board of the 2-drops and 3-drops, and then Worship is nothing. So I took Worship out, took 2 Charming Princes out. It's a good card, but it's better in late games, and this matchup seems like it's putting a lot of pressure on the early turns. No black or red, so no Purge. I took out a Winds of Abandon from the main just because it didn't seem like wiping away all of those tokens would really do very much. Paradoxical Outcome is what really fuels the deck, and as soon as they cast one of those, they get to return all their stuff, make all the creatures again, so I don't know. Again, it's sort of like Worship. Maybe it's okay, but it just didn't seem sort of prime for the matchup. I trimmed a single force only because I brought in a bunch of other counterspells and I needed to make space. Possible that's not correct, but we do need all of our creatures in the deck to sort of make the engine work. Took out a Venser because bouncing a single thing didn't seem great against them. Trimmed an Eternal Witness even to make space. So trimming on the value engine, single Witness out, single Soulherder out, even a single Force out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards out of the main, and then I would have brought in 2 Ceremonious Rejections, 2 Disdainful Strokes, 2 Oofs, and a single Force of Vigor. So a lot of nice anti-artifact hate, a bunch of great counterspells. So we're on the play. This is a picture-perfect opening hand. Hierarchs might seem clunky here, like we'd rather have something else, but swinging with Codal with double Exalted is just fine. We do need that. We need to draw a couple things to sort of get the hand really doing much. We need to draw either a Soulherder or some Ephemerates. With the Ceremonious Rejection in hand, obviously drawing an Eternal Witness would be great. We can just keep cycling Ceremonious Rejection, recurring it from the graveyard. The opponent opens with the Astrolabe, so we both have great turn 1s. Third land is pretty nice here. Choosing not to attack here because I'm planning on casting Ice Fang and Ceremonious this turn. All right, so opponent goes for the ramp. I am going to counter that, and then Cracked Flooded Strand probably for a Hallowed Fountain. Could just get a basic island, but Hallowed Fountain seems reasonable. Doesn't seem like every point of life matters in this matchup. It's more about the broad strokes rather than each point of life. Okay, we're kind of flooding out. Oh, now we're really flooding out. So we are going to play that second Hierarch, swing with Codal, and, pray for the best here. With 3 mana, the opponent, well, they play a second Chalice here. First one got countered, and that Thought Cast is pretty rough. It's like us casting a Mull Drifter. Their hand is just full at this point. We're going to try to thin our deck a little bit. Hopefully not draw more lands. A Force, that was a great draw because next turn, well, they could have Urza. We're just really hoping that they don't. But if they have, any big non-creature spell, if they have a Saheeli, for example, now we've got some protection. So we're going to get in for 3. We're going to play a fetch land because we do want to continue thinning the deck. And as I mentioned, individual life points don't seem like they're extremely important here. Opponent goes for Witching Well. Not important enough for me to counter it. They get to Scry, and I believe they did top-bottom. Mox Amber, you don't see that in every deck. Mox Opal, down to 3 cards, and the opponent passes. So no Urza this turn, no Sai this turn, no Saheeli this turn. Sort of fortunate for us that the opponent seems to be getting, running a little bit clunky, just like we are. Cracked a fetch, got another basic. We are going to want to establish Death Touch here in case, they get a huge construct or something. All right, well, let's see. During my upkeep, they have some action. Well, they go for Paradoxical Outcome, and I am going to counter that. At this point, we're going to want to hit An Eternal Witness, get back one of these counter spells, but we just keep hitting lands. Okay, getting in for 3. You can see how good this Exalted is in the deck. Play another fetch land, continue thinning, and hoping, praying that the opponent doesn't have gas. Okay, well, here is Urza. They've got 2 cards left in hand. Whole bunch of mana available to them. A 7/7 construct. And they just sack the Witching Well. So, play a land, play a bauble. Still not enough. Oh, well, there's another bauble. They can now activate Urza. I think that's what they're going for. And what do they find? Well, they found another Urza. They get to cast that and get another construct. So now they have 2 9/9s. And at this point, we're looking to draw, I guess, Force of Vigor, I guess Knight of Autumn, maybe Deputy of Detention. Did I bring in a Deputy of Detention? I must have brought in my second Deputy of Detention. Again, with all these singletons in the sideboard, it's a little hard to keep track on the replays at this point of what I'm bringing in. So there's Soulherder. We do get to Kraken for 3 and then blink the Coatl so that he's back on Death Touch duty. Go ahead and crack right away. Okay, Ephemerate is pretty nice because we can Ghost Block one of these constructs. The opponent might be going for another Urza activation. Mox Opal, not very threatening. Which contributes toward another Urza activation, I would think. Engineered Explosives. Well, that could hit us for 1, I guess. They can tap these constructs and the baubles for blue mana. We're still looking for that Eternal Witness to get back the counter spells. So we see them going for Engineered Explosives on 0. Getting in with the 2 constructs here. We're not really going to want to take 10, I don't think, here. So let's go with Hierarch and Coatl. And we need this Coatl on the battlefield for value purposes with Soulherder. So we are going to Ephemerate it. All right, the Oof was a beautiful draw. Opponent's going to run out a Mox Amber, only 4, so maybe they can't activate Urza again. It looks like they have something else. Well, here's another Urza, getting a 3rd construct. This is getting a little bit bonkers. All right, let's go ahead and blink that Coatl again. Path to Exile, pretty decent. And there's that Deputy of Detention. Just going to jam that guy right now, right away. Get rid of those constructs. We are going to get in with an 8/8 Soulherder. Opponent's going to have to chump here. And I have an option, so I'm going to play Collector Oof, sure, and get that Breeding Pool in tapped. Go to the end step. And it looks like the opponent just scooped it up at that point. So even though they were sort of going off there, we didn't see any paradoxical outcomes, so that was good for us. And yeah, that Deputy was very timely, being able to continually blink the Coatl to keep drawing cards. Eventually hit us into things that kept us in the game. And, this Oof just really kind of shuts things down. So able to stay in the match. I have to say, after game 1, this felt like a really, really rough matchup. They just destroyed us in game 1, but game 2, again, they kind of had a crazy board, but we were able to sort of go toe-to-toe with them. Let's go and see if I was able to do the same in game 3. All right, back for game 3. The opponent will be on the play this time. Opening hands, again, sort of picture perfect. We'd love to have like a Ceremonious Rejection, but with a Hierarch into Oracle and a Path. It's pretty great. I think the opponent went top-bottom again with that Witching Well. We drew a land for the turn, I believe. It was at Hallowed Fountain. Kind of clicked through it pretty quickly. Here's an Astrolabe. Engineered Explosives on 0. Engineered Explosives on 0. Thoughtcast. Draw on those cards. Drew an Ephemerate for my turn that time. Going to lead off with the Coiling Oracle because we would love to ramp. Instead, I drew a Disdainful Stroke, which I'm not complaining about. And we'd rather just pass and leave up white mana here. then attack with the Noble Hierarch. Okay, here's another Witching Well. Opponent's third turn. I kicked Everflowing Chalice, and it looks like that was all they had for the turn. We are going to try to dig a little bit. There's a Collector Oof, so things going really well on our side of the table. Let's go ahead and blink that guy one more time with the Rebound and a Force. So deck is giving us some love this game. Definitely paying 2 life for this. Definitely running out Collector Oof. And definitely holding up Disdainful Stroke. So opponent's down to 2 cards. It appears that they don't really have any action on their turn 4. So with Disdainful Stroke, a blue card to exile the Force of Negation in any of these 2-drop creatures. Path to Exile if they have Urza or Sai or anything like that. Just in a really, really good spot here. Hand has just developed amazingly well. Muldrifter for more value. All right, and there's a 4th land right on time. Go ahead and play that out. What are the options here? Well, we can hardcast Muldrifter, but I think it's probably a good idea to continue to leave up Disdainful Stroke. We don't necessarily need to leave up mana to hardcast Force of Negation, but we are in a fairly dominant position, and we can hold up mana and flash in Icefang Coatl, so that just seems fine. Like, swing for 4. Once we get Coatl down, it'll be a 3-turn clock from here. So we just pass. Opponent doesn't have anything on my end step. Remember, they can't tap any of these artifacts here. So it looks like they might have drawn a Darksteel Citadel. Pretty terrible. Can't even tap it because of Collector Oof. Okay, draw another land off the Coatl. In the deck. Opponent going for, I'm sure, Paradoxical Outcome. I'm going to choose to hit that with Force of Negation because Disdainful Stroke can hit Urza, whereas Force of Negation cannot. So let's go ahead and hardcast that Force. Drew an Ephemerate. It's pretty awesome because if the opponent does have some spot removal for a Collector Oof, we can just blink him to protect him. We can also just Muldrift Ephemerate to draw 4 cards. Getting in for 5 here. As I mentioned, it's a 3-turn clock. We've got 2 mana up for Disdainful Stroke at this point. A 3rd mana there to help us cast Path to Exile or Ephemerate. Opponent's seeming like they're having a tough time. Okay, well, pretty smart. In response to the cracked fetch, they're playing around another Force in case I don't have a blue card to pitch, but I fortunately have the Disdainful Stroke. So, gonna cast that. Get my land. Play a land. Gonna go for Ephemerate on Muldrifter. We'll see what we draw first, though. Okay, Hierarch. Not really amazing. Got 2 more to draw, and there's another Force and a Soulherder. So you can see how incredible Ephemerating Muldrifter is. When I draw those 4 cards, I feel like I always hit a sideboard card and like some kind of engine card. It's just so many chances to rip something that you really need, and we really got paid off there. So gonna get in for 5. We've got Hardcast Force up, or... Okay, so this is where I had an option. I could have played out Soulherder, drawn 2 more cards with Muldrifter. It just seemed greedy and unnecessary, because if I don't do that, I've got Force of Negation, pitching a Coiling Oracle, casting for free, and I get to leave up mana for Path to Exile. So if they try to go off with... they've only got like 1 card in hand. They're going to draw, have 2 cards in hand. You just want to play tight. Want to make sure that you're keeping your opponent from even the tiniest percentage points of going off. So I'm choosing to leave up Path to Exile here rather than playing out the Soulherder. All right, so he's got Urza. That thing is just going to make a construct. They have 1 card left in hand. So as things stand, if we attack, let's see, we've got 4 in the air, so the opponent is still dead. One more card that they're playing out here. Oh no, they're just activating Urza here, so they found Saheeli, which is kind of remarkable. Now they have a bit of the combo going with Urza making mana, and Saheeli making creatures. But I am going to path Urza in response to this. Still leaving up Force, I can force Saheeli. The opponent has only one card in hand, but it could be Paradoxical Outcome, in which case, they can just go bananas. Leaving up Path seemed to pay off. It was probably the better decision again, since just Soulherder in that spot would be overkill. If we've got interaction with a dominant board, you just want to leave up that interaction. Make sure that the opponent is just shut down completely. So I think this match really demonstrated well the power and flexibility of this deck. We can draw so many cards, which gives us a great chance at hitting awesome sideboard options like Collector Oof. And yeah, plenty of counter spells. If I had drawn an Eternal Witness, I could have started getting back Disdainful Strokes, getting back Forces. So yeah, currently sitting 2-0, beat Infect, and beat this Urza Saheeli combo. So please leave any thoughts you have down below in the comments section. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Please check out my Patreon page if you'd like to support the channel. And yeah, tune in for the next video where I'll be back with round 3 of this Modern League with Soulherder. This is my first Modern League with the deck. I had been just running queues, just, developing my chops with the deck, figuring out how the triggers work, figuring out just how, how to play tightly. And I feel like I'm at a point now where I kind of get the deck and I'm really enjoying it. It seems like kind of like Merfolk in the sense that if you play it tightly, you should be able to have game against almost any kind of matchup. So I've been enjoying it. League has been going well so far. And yeah, again, just join me in the next video where I'll be back for round 3. I'll see you guys there. Bye.